Hail and well met friends of Wurm and Ultima. This is the fourth part in my Ultima Nostalgia series. For those unfamiliar with this project, it's all about using Wurm Unlimited to recreate the world of Ultima Online. In the last episode, we constructed the hedge maze together. In this episode, we're going to build Vesper, a city formed by a group of small islands in the northeastern section of the mainland. Back when I was first conceiving the idea of this project, Vesper was one of the places I was most looking forward to building, as what could be more fun than to build over a dozen miniature islands, each adorned with a house or two. Not to mention that it caters perfectly to the completionist in me, who likes to experience getting things done piece by piece. As we saw in the previous videos, the first thing I had to do was map out the tiles and match them up with the 1024x1024 grid in Photoshop. Once the tiles were mapped out, I was free to start marking the floor prints of the various buildings. As you'll notice, doing this one tile at a time was rather tedious. There was also no way to make a keybind that I know of. Even using Bidoo's Custom Actions mod, which has been great for other things, it didn't work out for setting a keybind for this particular need, or else I just couldn't figure out the proper way to do that. No worries though, because while I was working on Vesper, Wurm brought a new update and improvement to the Change Terrain tool, which now allows you to set the tile type to work with the Paint Terrain tool. Later on in this video, you'll be seeing the new tool in action and we'll see how much faster it is to change the tiles. Now that most of the house blueprints are laid out, I'll mark where the bridges will be attached that connect the islands together and then start building them. You know, as I've been working on this project, I've been thinking about how many great updates Wurm has brought to the game over the years, especially recently. Updates which introduced elements that happen to match the very things I need to properly recreate Britannia. Going back a few years, I don't think this project would have really been possible. Take bridges for instance. These were introduced a couple of years ago. Imagine now trying to build Vesper without them. For those who have never played Wurm, the game allows you to build bridges from marble, rope, stone, or wood, and in fact they will soon be introducing a whole lot of new materials to match the new house walls and floors that they recently brought into the game. The whole system for building bridges is quite amazing actually. Not only are they available in different materials, but you can also decide how flat or arched they are, as well as how wide. If you make a very long bridge, you can also design where the abutments, bracings, and crowns are, allowing you to truly design a bridge to your own taste and liking. And as if that weren't enough, like I mentioned in the episode where we were building the city of Britain, they can also be built attached to buildings. Just a fantastic system overall, and something I've never seen in any other MMO. Now that most of the bridges are built, time to build the various shops, guild houses, and other establishments of the city. As we can see, Vesper is really starting to take shape. Time to plant some trees. I tried to stick to how things are mapped out in Ultima Online, so if there was a grassy patch, I left it grassy, and if there were trees in a certain spot, I would plant trees in those same spots. As I go along, you can see that the God tools allow you to fast forward the growth of the trees, bushes, and even grass. This is great for getting a realistic idea of the end result. At this stage, the city is almost ready, apart from some unfinished houses and missing environmental decorations. Something I'm going to do to the shorelines of the islands is use the terrain painting tool to paint the edges with grass. Although in UO the edges are actually dirt, in Wurm it looks so ugly that I'd prefer having the grass dip down into the water to give the islands a soft and more organic feel. When the grass is underwater, it almost looks like underwater vegetation, as you'd imagine along the edges of a lake. Here we can really see how the new Change and Paint Terrain tool shines. Getting back to bridges for a brief moment, Something that annoys a lot of players, including myself, is that to connect bridges like we have in Vesper, you need to create a mound of ground. And for that to look like it's a natural extension of the bridges, you need to pave it with something. The only problem is that the game does not currently have any tile types that match any of the bridges, and you end up with ugly connection points. As Vesper is a city of bridges, this was a real eyesore for me, so at some point I decided to reskin the cobblestone tile with the texture from the bridge. I hope that someday we will have actual tiles like this, and that when future bridges are introduced, this issue is considered beforehand and matching pavement tiles are released at the same time. Oh, and another thing. It would be nice if we had fences that matched the edges of the bridge as well. The closest thing I could find was these stone fences, but they look pretty ugly, sticking up like that. As we take a small tour of the Museum of Vesper, I'd like to talk about one of the things that Wurm shares with Ultima Online. It's the possibility to set items down on the ground anywhere you like, without them vanishing immediately. Like UO, they will also decay at some point, but unlike UO, Wurm has a quality system attached to items. The higher the quality, the slower it will decay. So, while poor quality items may take a few hours or days to decay, high quality items could be sitting there for weeks, even months. This makes Wurm a real role player's paradise, as the possibilities for building props for various scenarios is endless. As for items inside of buildings, in UO we can lock those down to secure them and make sure that they don't decay. The way it works in Wurm is that items inside of houses have a different decay rate. Some things don't even decay at all as long as they're inside a house. Items do not, however, have to be locked down. Instead, you set the permissions of the house, controlling who can and cannot pick up items or move them around. This also goes for the area of land you own. So unlike UO, where items have to be on your house plot to be safe, in Wurm you can own land and set things on the ground outside as well. In general though, these mechanics are something I love about both games, and they really give a feeling of immersion and realism that you can't really find in most other MMOs. Something I've been wanting to talk about is how to dye things in God mode. As a normal player, you would mix various ingredients together with water, and the amounts of which ingredients you add would determine the color. In God mode, however, life is much easier. You can either change the color of an item directly by editing its data, or create a dye in which you set the RGB values. Since I'm going to be painting a lot of walls, I'll create a dye this time. For those of you with Photoshop, you can test to see what a color will look like by taking a screenshot of the target that you want to dye, creating for instance a shape or a solid color layer, setting the layer to the overlay blending mode and adjusting transparency to about 50%. While this won't be exactly the color you will end up with in the game, it still gives a rough idea. It's already wonderful that Wurm happens to have almost identical building materials to Ultima, but the ability to dye the walls to get the colors matched up as well adds that final touch to give that Ultima feel. One of the challenges of getting the roads to twist and turn like in UO is the fact that only paved roads have the ability to make diagonal corner pavings. This is not supported for creating dirt or packed dirt roads. Those can only be set for full square tiles. In UO, this road is meant to be dirt, so my solution will be to pave all the dirt roads with slate slabs for now. Then once the server is done, I'll reskin the slate slabs with my dark brown dirt texture that we saw earlier in this episode. But even with the slate slabs, this twisting path headed to Minnock is oozing with atmosphere. Even though UO doesn't have benches or lamps alongside the roads, I couldn't help but add a few of those as well, so adventurers will be able to stop and enjoy the scenery or make their way through the darkness. Alrighty, Vesper is nearly complete. I still have some final touches to add to make the environment look more lived in, and will need to populate the city with some NPCs as well. But once it's finalized, and as always, I will make a video celebrating the final result. I've had a blast building it, and already at this stage I think it's turned out to be very cozy. I hope you've enjoyed watching it take shape. In the next video, we're going to have a look at player housing. What would the classic Ultima Online house models look like in Wurm? That's something I've been dying to try out, so I hope you'll join me when we try building those in the next episode. See you there!